Welcome to this video in which I will show you how to create this animated timeline in DaVinci Resolve. Now, I took inspiration for this particular video from a channel called Flatpak FX. He does these amazing motion graphics in After Effects. So I will show you how to do that exact thing in DaVinci Resolve. And if you want to download the project file that I have for this video, you can go over to my Patreon and subscribe. So with that being said, let's dive in. Okay, so right click, create a new timeline, and let's just go with the default settings. Now, here are the assets that you can download from the link in the description, but of course you can also use your own assets for this video. Now go over to effects and drag in a fusion composition, right click and click on clip change duration, change clip duration, and then change this to 10 seconds. Now right click and open in Fusion page. Drag in a background and connect this with the media out. Now over here, you can see that we have this by 1920 by 1080. So go over to image and we're just going to change the width and the height. We're going to keep the height same, but the width, we're going to change this to 5000. So you can do that by unselecting the auto resolution. And now this is how it will look. So now let's go over to the color. And from here, I'm going to change the type to gradient and the gradient type to radial. And let's change the position of this. So I'm going to bring this right here in the center and change the color to this color code. And over here, the white one, let's just change this all the way to black. So this is how it will look. Now let's drag in another background, and this time I'm just going to copy the settings from here. So you can right click, click on copy or Control C, and then right click and click on paste settings. Now drag in this polygon and connect this with the background. And the background, for the background, let's change the type to solid color. And let's change this to yellow. So you can just change the red and the green all the way to 1. And now let's connect this with the background. Right click over here and then you will see the option for guides and click on show guides. So this will help us create this straight line for our timeline. So go right here and make sure to click on the polygon. So right here, I'm just going to create this line using the center line that we have right here. So you can do something like this. Now, of course, you can also select this modify only and position this right there on the line. And this is the benefit of using the line. You can position this properly. Okay, so this looks fine. And now let's go ahead and change the border width to 0.003. So this is how it will look. Now let's go over to the polygon and right here at 0, I'm going to create a keyframe at length and I'm going to change this to 0. Now let's go over to 20 and right here at the 20th frame, I'm going to change this to 0.3. So here we have this line and we're going to keep this at a static. So we need to move this in and then make sure that this remains still. So let's go over to 60 frames and create a keyframe and keep that at 0.3. Now let's go to like 80 frames and then change this to 0.5. So this is where the second change will happen, or the second motion of the timeline will happen. Now let's go more at 120 and create another keyframe, and this will of course remain static. And then let's go over to 140 and change the length to 0.8. This is where this line will end. And if we play this, you will notice this is how it looks. It comes in, stays, and then goes right here, and then that's it. So at the position where it stays, we're just going to, and let me just remove this from here. This is the animation. Make sure that the shape animation is not selected. Just select the length and make sure all the keyframes are selected. Right click, go over at ease, and then from here, select in out cubic. So this will help you create these in out cubic, you can say ease in effects for your ease in animation for your timeline, motion for this line. And you can see this is how it looks. So now let's remove the show guides, and you can see that this is like showing right here. So let me just move this out. All right. So let me play this, and here you can see this is how it looks now. Let's select the background and press Control Space, search for glow. And here you will see that we get this glow on our line. So you can just go with the default settings for the glow. Now let's add in a multi-merge. Make sure you select the merge one before pressing on multi-merge. And now let's drag in a background, and you can just copy the settings from here just like we did before and paste them in this background as well. And this time I'm just going to go with the white color. So now let's drag in this ellipse, connect this with the background and the background with the multi-merge. Now right here in the ellipse, we need to reduce this. So let's right click on the width, click on expression and connect this with the height. Change this to 0.01. So this is how it looks. And now let's go over to the 20th frame where they have this line, and we need to position this ellipse right here where this line stops. So right here, it looks fine. At 20, we're going to actually go over to the 30th frame and create a keyframe at level, and then at 20, we're going to change this to 0. So something like this. And now let's drag in this polygon, connect this with the ellipse. Actually, let me unselect this and drag in the image. First, let's add in the image because we need the image to be beneath this you can say shapes that we're creating. So let's connect this with the multi-merge, and also while you have this selected, just press on color corrector and change the saturation to 0. So you will get this black and white effect. And let me just rename this to building. And right here, I'm just going to drag this behind the background layer and change the size to 0.3. So this is how it looks. And let me now position this right here. So let me just right click and check the guides to see whether this is not going outside the lines. So this looks good. You can use these guides for the positioning as well. So that's what I'm doing right now. And now let's connect the polygon with the ellipse and add these lines right here. So of course, I'm going to just change the positioning of this so that this looks good. Make sure they are straight. And now we can just move the building a little bit. I'm going to change the border width to 0.001 and unselect the solid, and this is how it looks. Now let's drag in another ellipse and connect this with the polygon. And again, just add the expression with the width connected with the height, and let's reduce this to 0.05. Now let's bring this in. Make sure that you connect this right here with the line that we just created, the polygon line that we created. And let me just go over to, let's say, right here so that we can see how this looks. Position this right in the middle, and let me unselect the solid and change the border width to 0.003, or actually let's go with 0.001. So this looks fine. So basically it's the same setting that we have for this polygon. You can just copy that same border width and add it to the ellipse too. Okay, so now you can see the image is behind, but we also need to mask this because it is visible. Of course, this is up to you. This is not necessary. You can skip this part as well. Right here at the 30th frame, I'm just going to actually remove this shape animation. We don't need this. Make sure to avoid them so that you have no problem with the spline later on. So right here at 35, create a keyframe at length, and let's go right here at 30 and change this to 0. So this is how it will look. Okay, so now let's go over to 40 frames and select the ellipse 2, create a keyframe at length. Actually, it wasn't 40, so let me just undo that. Change this to 40th frame and create a keyframe at length, and then add 35. Let's change this to 0. So this is how it looks. But here you will notice that this isn't starting from the position we want from the line. So what we can do is we can go over to the angle and change it and position this right here. So for me, it's at around minus 180.8 or something. So now you can see this is how it looks. But here you will notice that right here, you will notice that we have this dot. So you can just go to grab style and then click on this flat. So now this is flat, and now let's go over to the spline, and I'm going to unselect some things right here. So let me unselect these. So this polygon is basically the one we already did, so we don't need to select this anymore. But the ones that we have right here, the ellipse 1, the polygon 2, and the ellipse 2, let's just go ahead and click on them. Polygon 2 at the length, and also ellipse 2 which is also at the length. We don't need the width and the height, so we just need the length. Now let's zoom to fit, select all these keyframes and hit S on the keyboard. So this is how it looks. So here you can see this looks good now. Now we need to also change something for the masking. So I'm going to just add this polygon too. And now I'm just going to manually create this polygon. So this works for me right here. And let me just undo this one. Go over to 40 frames. Actually, let's go over to 50 frames. Create a keyframe at this shape animation. So of course, now we need it. And now let's go over to the 45th frame and select these from the end, move them in right here. And now let's select these ones, these points right here. And now let's move them. Actually, I'm just going to move this from here, go over to 40 and move this all the way to the end. And from here, we can just move this down. This is basic keyframing, basic masking. So you can do this manually. And here you can see, we just have this one thing showing, but a way that we can avoid this is by going over and changing it manually a little bit more. Go over to 40 frames, create a keyframe at level. Also, let's go over to 45 and create another keyframe. Then the one at 40, let's change this to 0. So now this won't be a problem anymore. Here you can see. So now let me just move this right here, and I'm going to add this overlay. You can press Control Space, search for underlay, and then add this right here. So not overlay, it's called underlay. You can just add this, and this is up to you. You don't really need to do this. I'm just doing it so I can, distinguish between different nodes. So I just copied that same thing, all the nodes that we just created, add this with the multi-merge. Now connect this with the media out. Basically, this is just a copy. And for the second item in our timeline, we're just going to change some settings. So right here, we have this building, as you can see. So if I move this, you will notice that this is a duplicate for it because we duplicated it. Same thing. Let me remove the polygon. And also let me remove this one because we need to add the second image now. So let's add this image, connect this with the color corrector right here. And right here, let's go over to 80th frame. And let me just bring this close up and increase the size to, let's say, 0.5, or let's go with 0.4. And now select the ellipse 1 and let's drag this right here. So this is basically the same thing that we had before. We're just going to change the position. So you don't really need to create this from scratch again and again. You can simply copy the nodes that we already have. Just make sure that you change the positioning of them. So right here, I'm going to select this one, polygon 2, use the rotation Z so that we can, position it in the downwards direction. And now let's select the ellipse 2 and bring this right here. So the same thing we did before, all we have to now do is change the positioning of them. And also, we're also going to change the keyframe positioning, but let me just first position this one. Make sure this is connected with the line. And now let's also go over to the building and let me just move this up right here. Make sure that this is within the circle. And now let's go over to the keyframes. And from here, we can just move all the keyframe settings ahead on the timeline. So let's select the ellipse, or let's select the ellipse 1. And you will scroll down and you will notice that this will be highlighted. So you can just select this and you will be able to see it now. You can click on this zoom to fit, and this is where the keyframes are. So now we can move them right where we want, which is at the 80th keyframe, as you can see. And this is the same thing. So you don't really need to create the keyframes again as well. You can simply just move them. So let's do the same thing with the polygon 2 right here, the copy of that polygon. And let's open this and just move this right here after the circle and the ellipse animation, as you can see. So this is of course a manual process, but this is a quick process as well. So now finally for the ellipse 2, we will move this after the polygon that we have. So right here, as you can see, this is how it looks. But of course, we do need to change the angle for this as well. So right here, you will notice that this is starting from this side. So you can simply just change the angle by going over to angle. Let's go with 0 for now. So, okay, this looks good. But right here, let me bring this even lower a little bit so that this starts right there from the line. Perfect. All right, so now let me just delete this polygon, and I'm going to create another mask for this image and connect it with the media. And let me just unselect the polygon for now, or you can say hide it. And I'm going to create these points to cover our building. All right, so let me just adjust this a little bit. And of course, these ones as well. Let me adjust this and let me enable it now so we can see where the masking is affecting the image. And this comes in and this is how it looks. And let me just add in this shape animation right here at 110 and then go over to 100 and let's change the positions of this. Actually, let's go over to 105, go over to 105 and then change the position. Bring it a little bit in from here as well, and from here as well. And then at 100th keyframe, we're going to select these points, move them out right like this. And from here, we're also going to do the same thing. But for this one, it will be a little bit tricky. We will have to do some manual keyframing. As you can see, we need to do some manual keyframing. So let's go over at 105, actually 102 or 1. At 100, this is where we are. At 101, let's change this. And at 102, let's change it right here. So again, this is manual keyframe adjustment. You have to do this on your own. And right here, of course, we have this showing, so we can simply do the same thing we did before. Use the level to add this keyframe. Not at 90, let's go over at 100, add this keyframe, add 0, and then add 105. Let's bring this into 1. So right here we have this problem. Let me just fix this real quick. Now I'm going to add another underlay for this. This is the second item in our timeline. And now we're going to go over to the third one, which will start from right here at 140. And of course, we're going to do 2 of them now. So let me select this one right here, the first one again. Control C to copy and Control V to paste. So let me bring this right here. Bring this up. Let's connect this with the media out like this. All right, and right here I'm just going to delete both of these and bring in the image that we need. Connect this right here, and let's go right here to the multi-merge and move the building to this position. Okay, so now let's go over to the ellipse. Bring this right here. Just like we did before, I'm going to repeat the same process. Okay, so I'm going to position the ellipse somewhere around here because we're going to add another ellipse later on for the 4th image that we have. So it's going to be close to each other. So for the masking, again, I'm going to use a polygon, unselect it so that I can make keyframes, making sure that it's connected with the media in, because otherwise this will not work. Make sure that this is connected with the media in, and then you can click on the hide button. Now let's enable this, and this is how it will look. So let me go over to the keyframes, and I'm going to just bring in the keyframes from the previous state, or you can say the previous position in the timeline, all the way to this position now. The same thing we did before with the second item. I'm going to repeat this. All right, so here you can see this is how it looks. So now let's go over to the polygon and do the masking. Right here, it starts from 160. Yeah, this will start from 160. So let me unselect this one, go over to 160, and then, or actually let's go to 170 and create a keyframe at shape animation. Then let's go over at 165 and move this right here. And then at 160, I'm just going to manually position this right here. Again, same thing we did before. This is a manual process that you will need to do on your own. So let me set the level at 165, and then at 160, change this to 0. So this is how it looks. Again, I'm going to add an underlay for this. So our third item is also done. Let's finally do the fourth item, which will be the final item. So I'm just going to copy this one right here, and you can just simply copy this one that we just created. Right click, paste, and then connect this with the media out. Now let me delete them and bring in this final image, and let's position this right here. And of course, I'm going to change the size. Now this will depend on the image that you have. You can change the image size according to the image that you have. And of course, this is going to be the same process. I'm going to repeat the same process so you can just follow along. But the only difference is that we are going to just slightly change it. This is going to be close to the item above. And you can drag this. You can select the points and you can simply just drag this to the bottom and move this right here. So this is how you can change the line positioning. All right, so here you can see our timeline is done, and let me add this underlay for the final item in the timeline. So this is how it looks at the moment. We have everything done. So now I'm going to add this text. You can drag in this text and connect this with the multi-merge. And let me just type in the year for the building construction, you can say. Of course, this is depending on the building that you have, obviously. And the font that I'm using is Montserrat at bold. And let me just position this right here. Change this to size to 0.05 and position this right here. And now let's go over to 40th frame and create a keyframe in the opacity at shading. Then at 30, let's change this to 0. So here you can see this is how it looks. Now I'm going to add another text for this item as well. So basically now you will just need to add text just like we did with the text one. You can just add in text for the rest of them as well. And of course you can use this keyframe to adjust the opacity keyframes in the timeline as well. And you can obviously copy and paste the settings from text 1 to text 2, and the next text that we will create, you can also copy the same settings as well. All right, so let's go to the main timeline and let's click on the fusion composition and zoom in to 2.6. And let me also change the X position so that this is visible. We're just going to move along with the timeline now. So right here, let me create a keyframe at, let's say, 1.105. Let's create a keyframe at position and then go over to 0 and change the position to, let's say, 11700. Actually, no, let's go with, yeah, let me remove this keyframe from here, copy the settings. Let's go with 1500, copy this, remove the keyframe from here, go all the way to 0 and then paste the 1500 in the X position. And here you can see this is how it looks. So now right here, when we have this animation going on, let's just slightly move in the X direction. As you can see, slight movement. And then when the timeline goes on to the next item, we can just move this a little bit faster right here, as you can see. And now right here, where this one ends, where the next one is about to start, we can just add a slight movement. So here you can see. And then finally for the ending, let's move this right here. And you can now go all the way to the end and just add some more positioning, change in the positioning. So this is how it looks. So this was it for this video. I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you in the next one.